Interface. Java interfaces are the specifications for one or all the functionalities exhibited by an object. The Java interface is a development contract. It ensures that a particular object satisfies a given set of specifications. An interface is also known as a specification class. It is a 100% abstract class, in which none of the methods have body. Consider a situation in a university where a registrar is working. In such a case, the interface talks about the responsibilities or what a registrar is required to do. For example, provide registration form, accept registration request, provide registration number, and so on. In this slide, we have mentioned that the interface is an 100% abstract class. Then, what is the difference between an abstract class and an interface? An abstract class is a part of generalization and may implement a generic behavior for the subclasses to reuse. On the other hand, interface is a specification class, which only talks about what the implementing class should do. However, interfaces do not talk about how to do. Let's consider vehicle to be a fully implemented or a concrete class. In such a case, the subclass car can decide on what methods to be overridden. However, an abstract class can force the subclass to implement the abstract methods in the base class. Assume the developer has forgotten to override the start method of the class car. As a result, the car does not start. The class vehicle has only provided a generic behavior of how to start a vehicle. But then the car has a specific way to start. This results in a bug. Developer forgets to override the start method and the car never starts off. Remember, an interface requires all its methods to be overridden. Now let's replace the concrete class vehicle with an interface. An interface would have forced the developer to implement all the methods in the class car, and therefore would have been able to avoid the bug. One cannot create an object of an interface. Interfaces are declared with the interface keyword. Interfaces can only contain method specifications and constant declarations. Variable declarations which are declared to be both static and final are referred as constant declarations. Here is an example. Interface automobile. Here I have a public static final int max speed, where max speed refers to a constant variable declaration, whose value cannot be changed further. And then we have a public abstract void start method. Every class which implements this interface automobile is required to override the start method or declare itself as an abstract class. Here, automobile can be considered a specification class. A class implements one or more interfaces by using implements keyword. However, this is not possible in inheritance. That is, a class can only extend one class. Each method in the interface must be implemented in the implementation class. Here is an example. Class car implements automobile, which means that class car has to provide the implementation for the start method. The other functionalities of the class car, however, can be specified. Now let's look at this example once again. The interface automobile provides the various specifications: start, stop, accelerate, and change gear. Class car here implements automobile and then provides the definitions for all the methods provided in the automobile interface. Now this makes the car to take off. Now let's watch out for a few important points on interfaces. All methods in an interface are implicitly public abstract, but never static. Consider the example provided here. I have a programmer version of automobile interface wherein the programmer has not specified the keywords public abstract. However, on compilation of this interface, the compiled version of the automobile interface would look like this. The public abstract keywords are added to the interface provided by the compiler version. If a class implements an interface and does not implement all the methods of an interface, then it should be declared abstract. As discussed earlier, an interface is a specification class. If a class implementing a given interface has not defined all the specifications or methods, then it is to be considered an incomplete class. Let's consider an example. Here is an interface automobile which defines 4 methods: start, stop, accelerate, and change gear. Class vehicle implements automobile. Class vehicle provides definitions for the methods stop, accelerate, and change gear. However, class vehicle has not provided the definition for the method start, which implies that class vehicle is abstract or considered as incomplete. Abstract class vehicle implements automobile. A class can implement multiple interfaces that have a method with the same signature. Methods in an interface cannot be declared final since they are implicitly abstract. An abstract method can be overridden, whereas a final method cannot be overridden. Therefore, methods in an interface cannot be declared final. Let's consider a few examples. In this example, I am using an interface act which declares a method void act. And then I have two classes, actor1 and actor2, both implementing the interface act. Actor1 provides the implementation of the method act, public void act, and prints the message first implementation. And actor2 prints the message Second, implementation. As discussed earlier, an interface only is a specification class. It, however, does not talk about how to implement the interface, or rather how to implement the specifications provided in the interface. Here I have a class tryout, where I have a public static void main where I am creating an object for actor 1 and actor 2 and calling a static method tryout. The method tryout calls actor.act. Therefore, tryout can access the methods or the implementations of actor 1 and actor 2. Here is an example which demonstrates how to use multiple interfaces. Here I have an interface I1, and then I have another interface I2, and now I am implementing I1 and I2 into class multiple interfaces. Multiple interfaces are implemented or separated by a comma. Here are the definitions for the interfaces. Test with an integer argument comes from I1 interface, and test with a string argument comes from I2 interface. Interfaces versus subclasses. As there are quite a few similarities between interfaces and subclasses, it's important for you to understand when to use what. In simple words, I can say that an interface is a specification class which talks about what the implementing class or classes need to do. On the other hand, inheritance is used for providing a generic and specific behavior implementations of a given class tree. Make a subclass only when you want to make a more specific version of a class. Use an interface when you want to define a role that other classes can play.